Welcome back to episode number 12 of the Seattle Sports Scene. Today we will be looking into a deeper dive of the Mariners and Sounders' lackluster starts and wrapping up the episode with a bunch of listener questions. Let's get into it.
A drive deep to right field, down the line. The Mariners win this game 2-1.
Drops back. He's going to throw down the middle. He's got a man. The ball is caught.
Game over,
It is
baby.
a touchdown. The game is over.
With a shot blocked. Everly in front for Schwartz. They score! Hey, hey! What do you say? Ground early. Now the cross out to Door. What a save by Fry!
What's going on, Seattle sports fans? We are back for another episode of the Seattle Sports Scene. Episode 12. Can't believe we're already at episode 12. Feels like we've flown by in these episode counts, but we're here. Mariners season is well underway now. I'm going to get talking about that today. Talk about the Sounders a little bit today. Not much happening with the Seahawks or Kraken. Got a couple of listener questions we'll go over there. But other than that, going to be a pretty heavy Mariners and Sounders podcast for us today. We're going to lead off here with the Mariners, though. Talk about kind of what's going on with them. Before we get going, let me bring in my co-host here, Seattle Sports Season. How's it going? How are you thinking about the Mariners so far and their kind of rocky start to the season and kind of how they've been so far?
Yeah, it's been a bit of an unlucky start to the season for the Mariners. As we dive deeper into this, there is some signs of encouragement, some signs of life. It's not all negative. They have cut down on strikeouts compared to last season. They're getting on base a lot more, but the problem right now for the Mariners is just driving in runs when they get the opportunity to. And that is something that if you want to be a good team, you got to start hitting the ball with runners in scoring position. So that's the biggest thing that stood out to me so far to this point in the season.
Yeah, the struggle to get runners in on scoring position. I don't remember what the exact statistic was, but on the broadcast, Aaron Goldsmith was saying it was like 121 was their batting average with runners in scoring position, which is not great. Like, you need that to be higher, especially if you're a team that claims to be a playoff team and wants to be in the playoffs this season. Like, it's got to be higher than that for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely going to come around. But part of the unluckiness to start this Mariners season has come to injuries. They started with Brash and Troy Taylor and George Kirby on the injured list, and unfortunately, since the last time we recorded, Victor Robles made one of the most amazing catches I've ever seen in the Giants series to save the game at that point. But unfortunately, he goes into the netting. He dislocates his shoulder. There's a partial break somewhere in there. Good news is that they don't think he's going to have surgery, which means 6-week recovery and then about a 6-week rehab. So it's about looking like a 3 months out for Victor Robles, which would be getting him back right around the beginning of July, which honestly, after the play that it happened on, I consider that not worst scenario, because when he came out of that play, I thought that something went very, very, very wrong, because he could not move that arm. I've never seen someone in that much pain after a shoulder arm injury. He couldn't even walk out. He was in so much pain. So the fact that he was in the dugout for this series, he doesn't have to get surgery, I consider a success. Second injury that kind of has happened was last night against the Astros. Bliss, on the follow-through of a swing, a one-handed follow-through, hits the catcher in his follow-through and then tears his bicep somehow in that whole process. I was kind of surprised. He stayed in the game the rest of the game. He had a rocket double out to right center field. He made an incredible defensive play, all with that torn bicep. And then this morning, test came out. Haven't gotten an official word on what the recovery period is going to look like for him, but I imagine it's not going to be before Robles is back. I imagine that's a pretty lengthy recovery for a torn bicep. And so that kind of leads us in to the question of who is going to replace those guys, because both Bliss and Robles were guys that the Mariners were depending on early in this season, both of them playing almost every game. What are your thoughts on their injuries and what the Mariners can do to sort of attempt to replace that production?
Well, like you said, it's really fortunate that Robles isn't more hurt than we maybe thought he was. I also thought it was going to be a much worse injury and was prepared for a lot, more devastating news. So I don't wish injury upon anyone, and I'm in no way celebrating this, but I'm definitely, more excited about the fact that he's not going to be out for a longer term, or the fact that he's broken something that can, or hurt something that can, long term affect him. So that's good to see that it's not as bad as we thought it was. Hopefully he can be back along the date line of him being supposed to come back. Hopefully it's no longer. But Bliss last night was unfortunate. I saw the swing and I saw him kind of grimace at the plate and was surprised when he came back because I was watching that at bat live and thought he was not going to come back. It looked like he had really messed something up. So great for him to come back, get that double, and then make that incredible glove play off of second base in, I believe it was in extra innings, to arguably, obviously the Mariners don't win that game, but to keep them in the game and really save their chances of winning that game. Really good play by him. But yeah, the question about trying to figure out where to replace this production on defense for the Mariners, because obviously you have Bliss out for a little bit. We don't know how long, like you said. But there goes your second baseman. And then Robles, your outfielder, obviously is gone. But where are you going to move around the players you currently have, or who can you call up or send or acquire to try to help that infield defense? Obviously, the short-term solution right now has been to play Dylan Moore at third base consistently. With today, was it Leo Rivas who played second? Or no, he came in and pinch hit.
Yeah.
Who was playing second today?
Miles Mastrobuoni started
That's right.
at second today. And he's been really
and I thought
productive.
I thought he did okay. Time will tell if he's somebody who can stay at second for you consistently. But today he was fine. I didn't really see any mistakes made by him. I thought he did a really good job. Also love batting wise that he and Solano came through at the end of the game and got on base for the Mariners to ultimately take this game today against the Astros. But obviously your short-term solution is a little bit risky, and you still have to figure out what you can do to be able to shift playing time around so you don't have players playing second or third too long, or too many times in a row, I guess you could say. I feel like there's definitely a couple of moves you can make. I'm not gonna lie. I really want to see Williamson get called up and come play at third. I feel like he might be ready. I feel like from watching spring training and really seeing him play in the minors right now, that he might be a player who's ready for that third base opportunity, especially from a defensive perspective. I don't know. What are your thoughts on like him potentially coming up, playing some third base minutes, even if it's not like full-time him or even 3/4 of the time him? Demo and him sharing third base seems like a good start, at least to see. It's giving you a good opportunity to see if he's ready for that kind of haul.
I think if you bring him up, you have to commit to playing him as much as possible, or else it's just going to hinder his development. So you either leave him in Tacoma where he can play every day. He's one of only 2 players that's played every game in Tacoma. He has 41 at-bats, 11 hits. That's good for 268. Only 4 strikeouts in 41 at-bats. 2 stolen bases. He's been pretty solid to start the season down there. I don't want to force him up before he's ready. I'd rather have him continue to play in Tacoma and kind of play his way into the majors instead of us calling him up out of desperation, which is why I'm really okay with, for now, I think that the plan that they should be doing is move Polanco back to second base where he's comfortable, where his body's comfortable. At this point, he should be your second baseman once he's healthy and once his oblique is feeling better. Then you can let Mastrobuoni and Dylan Moore trade off at third base until Williamson is ready, and then you can have him come up and be sort of an everyday guy until he either plays himself into that role full time or plays himself out of the role, and then you can send him back to Tacoma. But I think the bigger issue here is not what they're going to do in the infield, but it's what you're going to do in the outfield, because we kind of knew that they didn't have the greatest outfield depth. There's everyone in their minor league system just seems to be a left-handed hitter. So we'll see. Canzone, Raley are both lefties. They both kind of struggle very heavily on left ABs. For me, I'd love to see a guy like Samad Taylor get a chance. To start the year in Tacoma, he has 2 homers, 6 strikeouts to 4 walks. He's hitting 304 for a 1 OPS. Obviously, that's only in 8 games, so it's not a huge sample size, but he's gone off to a hot start down there. He's a guy that the Mariners signed last year as depth. He had a really good spring, and he really has just never gotten a chance to come up to the majors and play. He's been playing center field in Tacoma, so the defense is there. I'd love for him to get an opportunity to come up to Seattle and get a chance to play, because Dom Canzone has looked pretty lost. I know you're a fan of Dom Canzone, but from his limited ABs, just the 3 ABs that he's had since coming back up, it looks very much to the same Canzone that we've seen, who, when he makes contact with the ball, it goes miles, but the swing decisions are pretty bad, like really off balance, not picking up the breaking ball at all, just kind of selling out fastball, and people know exactly what they need to do to pitch to him.
Yeah, there definitely needs to be some more discipline there with the ABs, especially if you're going to be even if you're going to be a depth piece hitter for the Mariners. I'm kind of hoping he can get back to kind of that depth production that he was getting for us last year in 168 at-bats, 33 hits, 7 doubles, 8 home runs, and 17 RBIs, and 18 walks. Pretty good, 53 strikeouts, batting just under 200 average. Obviously, the average isn't great, but like that's good depth piece right there. Like, as much as I am definitely like a Canzone meme fan, and I'd love to see him be like a star, he's not going to be. He's a depth player at best. But that right there is what I would expect from a depth player, to come in and pinch hit and get a couple of runs on board, take some walks. I feel like for him, he needs some discipline in his swings and needs to take some more pitches and be patient with his at-bats. I feel like these first 3 at-bats we're seeing, he's swinging it too much. And some of them, they're the right pitches to swing at, and he's just missing it. So he's a player who, unfortunately, I feel like he could have used some more time this season in Tacoma to kind of get into the groove of like playing at a level that he's definitely right for before coming up to the big leagues. But obviously, with Robles being hurt, came up a lot sooner than he was ready for. He's had a pretty good season with Tacoma so far, with only a week or 2 of playing, but I definitely feel like he could have had a little more time down there, if not, the injury for Robles happening. Samad Taylor's an interesting player to kind of think about for a call-up. I feel like he played a few games with us last season. I don't think he was very good. But, obviously, as time goes on, players can change, and their things can change about them to make them, play better or play differently, especially at the MLB level. Let's see, 2024. He only played 3 games for us. 2 hits. Hey, 2 hits in 3 games is not bad.
He wasn't that bad. They just wasn't really given an opportunity. He was just kind of an emergency call-up.
Yeah, 3 games, 5 at-bats, 2 runs. Let's see, 2 hits. Yeah, not bad. 1 strikeout. So yeah, I might be getting him mixed up with somebody else who we had up here for a while who was not good. But he did play 31 games for Kansas City in 2023, 60 at-bats, 2 doubles, 4 RBIs, 7 walks, 22 strikeouts. So, and he's young too. He's 26 years old. His big league career big league career has just started. So he definitely does seem like a pretty decent option for some outfield depth to get a chance for some ABs.
Yeah,
I definitely agree with that.
it's really interesting because he is a guy that entered the league. He got drafted in 2016. So he was been in the minors since 2016, a brief stint there with KC, but really this is a guy that now has over 2,500 career ABs in the minor leagues. He's an experienced guy, and yet he's still only 26 years old. So it's not like a guy that's been in the minors for forever. He's now approaching like 30, just getting his first call up. This is a guy that still has some upside. He's also a ridiculous athlete and defender, and he on the MLB's website is listed as a second baseman, currently starting every game for Tacoma in center field. Like, he is someone that could also give you good depth at multiple positions. So I really hope that at some point this year, even if it's not right now, they give Samad Taylor a chance, because I think it's a very low risk, high upside. Not like super high upside, obviously, but I think we've kind of seen what Dom Canzone is at this point. He's not really looking different. He's gotten some pretty significant time in the majors, and it would just be nice to see somebody else than Leo Rivas and Leo Rivas and Dom Canzone, who seem to be the go-to guys every time somebody goes down with an injury at the major league level, at least last season and now to start this season.
Mm-hmm.
Shifting gears, I
If I can really quick.
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, really quick. I was just gonna pull up Samad Taylor really quickly. His minor league stats since 2016 up until today: 2,500 at bats. He's batting 264 over that time. 229 stolen bases, 69 home runs, 366 RBIs. Those are some pretty good. 667 hits. Those are some pretty good numbers, even for somebody in the minors. Definitely seems like somebody who can at least get a chance to play in the majors more than 3 games and see what he can do.
Yeah, for sure. Switching gears now. For me, the major issue that I've seen with the Mariners so far, which is common with teams as you start the MLB season, is they're just missing fastballs. And when you're missing fastballs, you're really just not in a position for success at all, to be honest. There's been a lot of pitches where we've seen Mariners hitters get fastballs middle in, middle up, middle down. Really just
even middle,
where they're not taking bad swings. Like, they're taking the swings, they're recognizing the pitch. Most of the time they're even making contact on the ball, but they're fouling it straight back, which means they're just a little bit under it, a little bit on top of it. Just something's a tiny bit off. So when they get that timing, when the Mariners players start to time up the fastball, like we saw with Randy today on the Grand Slam, he gets a fastball middle in and he kills it, 91 miles an hour. That's exactly what we need. Because once you start making contact with the fastball, then you can start adjusting for off-speed pitches. Because right now, the Mariners have really good ABs. Like, they're not chasing a lot. For the most part, majority of guys are not chasing. They're taking the right pitches. The problem is that when they get their pitch to hit, they've done such a good job laying off the other pitches, but now you got to make contact when you get the pitch you're supposed to kill. And so this is already an improvement from what we saw last year, because a lot of the time last year we were seeing people chase, we were seeing bad swing decisions, but now we're seeing good swing decisions. We're getting a lot of walks. We're not striking out a ton, besides yesterday where we struck out a ton. But they just need to start hitting that fastball, and then they can go on from there. So, and this is a pretty common thing with players as you start the MLB season. That's kind of the point of spring training, is to get ahead on timing up the fastball. But even still, you see guys all around the league missing fastballs. And that'll just be something that, as you see 97 day in and day out, you're going to start to get a hang of timing that up. So that's the biggest issue for me so far. And the fact that when they have made good contact, a lot of their good contact is going right at people right now. Like, 115 miles an hour today off the bat of Luke Raley that just goes right at the second baseman, and there's nothing you can do about that. So a little bit of bad luck and a little bit of just mistiming on the fastball, but those are both things that will eventually change with time, which is why I still have a lot of hope for this team.
Yeah, the watching the timing of the fastball just not line up is really frustrating to me, to just feel like you see the replays that they show on the TV, and it's like, oh my gosh, they read it, they knew it was there, they knew it was coming, took a swing, and it was just too high or just too low of a swing from where the ball was placed. So yeah, definitely lining up the timing for that. And then, like you said, took the words right out of my mouth. The quality of contact's been frustrating, that we've been getting that quality of contact at times, and it's going right to an infielder or an outfielder of the opposing team, and it just is frustrating so much to watch them kind of start to figure it out, and then you just pop out, line out to somebody. So hopefully that can start to come through, especially the way that like other ballparks are laid out. Maybe you get that to kind of go in a little bit of a lucky way for you in the future, but it's frustrating, it's difficult, it's annoying. Hopefully once they can figure that out, things can improve for the hitting. And it's, still pretty early on in the season, as you said, with more at-bats and seeing some more pitches. We're probably going to see them improve on, the timing of those fastballs and kind of learning where the location of that is, how to read sliders that are out of the zone. So, not to repeat myself, but more time and more at-bats is going to give them more of a better discipline when it comes to these at-bats. And hopefully these depth guys can continue to figure that out as well. Obviously, we've been really, really unlucky with injuries to start the season so far. So hopefully you can have some of those depth players also figure out that batting or those at-bats and kind of see pitches differently in a better way.
Yeah, especially as those guys get more ABs. And you see it a lot of the time. The players, they know that they're missing these pitches. You can see by the body language. Announcers recognize it. Their Goldie is like, yep, that Cal would love to have that one back. And it's like, yes, Cal wants that 92 middle and fastball back, but that's something that we know that in probably a few weeks from now, Cal Raleigh, if he gets that pitch again, he's going to destroy it. And so I really don't think there's much of a need to worry about that right now. If we get to the middle of May and they're still missing these fastballs, that's when you can kind of start to worry. But until then, it's still very early in the season. After today, just 1/13 of the season has been completed, so still so much baseball left to play. And the other thing is that hitting is contagious, and you saw that today, that just once a few guys started to get knocks, the floodgates opened up, and they managed to score 7 runs in like 5 outs. And you see everybody getting on the board. You saw Solano get a hit. You saw Mastrobuoni get a hit. You saw Julio drive a ball to the opposite way. Randy gets a big walk and a bomb. And it's like once they start seeing the guys at the top, like Julio and Randy and Cal, start to see those guys heat up, the bottom of the lineup takes pressure off of them. And once you see people in front of you start to get hits, just like hitting is contagious when it's bad, hitting is contagious when it's good. So as we see those guys heat up, I really firmly believe that the bottom of the lineup will come around as well.
Yeah, I will say, I feel like one thing you can do to help this team dramatically is don't give Rowdy Tellez much playing time. I feel like his first base performance has been pretty bad, and he has 1 hit in 20 at-bats and 1 walk, and he's batting 50 in his average right now. Like, that's not just like it's a bad start. It's like that's hurting the team right now kind of start. So I feel like you probably got to limit his at-bats. Like, looking at his stats right now, it's not good. Like, it's not good. And that's a player that very easily could, you could reduce his playing time playing first base, and you're not going to hurt much of the other first base performers that you have in Luke Raley or Donovan Solano or anybody else who could step in at first. Like, Tellez should not be on starting rosters for a game day. He should be a depth piece or a pinch hitter at best.
I agree. And the good news is for the Mariners is that they have reinforcements coming in Troy Taylor, George Kirby, Matt Brash. Matt Brash threw on the mound in T-Mobile Park today. Him and Taylor are probably within the next week and a half. Kirby felt good. I imagine he'll still be closer to the beginning of May, end of April, but that's still going to be huge. Shout out to Luis F. Castillo, who honestly, throughout his first 2 big league starts, was pretty solid. The command was really spotty. Walking 5 guys today, but his stuff is pretty good. He only gave up 3 earned runs today in 4 innings. That is not bad at all from a 5th spot starter. He did his job. The bullpen has been incredible. They only gave up 1 earned run in the series against the Astros. That's incredible. Guys stepping up. Casey Lawrence was fantastic today. Vargas has been good. Bizardo's been good. Snyder's been great after a rough start. Spire, Munoz, and Santos to close it out. And Trent Thornton. Like, everybody's been stepping up in that bullpen to cover for these injuries. And it's honestly going to create a kind of hard decision, I think, for Jerry Dipoto when Matt Brash and Troy Taylor are ready to come back, because a lot of the guys in the bullpen right now are performing pretty well. So to send 2 of them back to Tacoma is going to be a tough decision, but there's still good depth pieces to have, and eventually you're going to need those guys for spot games here or there. So to give them the experience now has been really beneficial to their development and just the bullpen in general getting these innings. They've been having to eat innings too. That's the thing. I think we have one of the highest usage rates of the bullpen in the major leagues. We have played 2 12-inning games, so that's basically like playing an extra game and a half at this point. So that contributes to it a lot. But also our starters, trying to be careful with them, not throwing Gilbert. They threw Gilbert out there, but not throwing Miller and Wu out there for extra innings here at the beginning of the season. So shout out to the bullpen for being pretty unbelievable to start the season.
Yeah, it's even a lot of the bullpen and players that we didn't expect to be good have been really good. Like Vargas, like you said, like surprisingly good. I'm loving what he's been doing out there. His control feels pretty good. He's got 6 strikeouts. He's pitched 7 innings. His ERA is at 3.52. Like, good, strong start from him. Strong start from Gabe Spire as well, who's done a great job this season. Trent Thornton has surprised me because he had a little bit of a rocky season last year. Obviously, I'm disappointed that Saucedo didn't have a good start to the year, but I think he's one of those players who just needs some time in the minors to kind of get his game back, and he'll be right back up with his old stuff. Luis Castillo obviously is a great pitcher, and we've known this. He's having a much better start to the year than I thought he would have.
For real.
And I've been very impressed with his stuff. He has the lowest ERA on the team right now, minus Munoz, who obviously hasn't given up an earned run yet. Also Gabe Spire as well. But he's playing really, really well. And I think, if I go to all teams here, Logan Gilbert currently sitting on top of the league right now in terms of pitching. He is tied for first with Mackenzie Gore and Zach Wheeler. Those are the Washington Nationals and Philadelphia Phillies pitchers. Sitting on top of the league right now, stats-wise. I'm not sure how exactly that's measured, like which one is on top of which, but obviously frustrating to see, much like last year. He's one of the only pitchers that's in the top 10 right now that has no wins yet. He has a loss and no wins, but hopefully that can change and we can get some wins for Gilbert, get some runs on the board early. And that's actually something that I had wanted to talk about, was the fact that I feel like one thing that can really, really, really help this team a lot is getting some runs early on and having players show up with these hits early on in games. Because it's all good and well when you're able to make magic happen in the 7th inning and the 9th innings, or even in extra innings, and you get a win late in the game. But you're hurting, especially the bullpen and the rest of your team, when you're not able to take leads in the 2nd to 6th inning, or 3rd to 5th, or even 1st to 4th or something. The fact that this Mariners team is struggling to get runs on the board early on in games is also going to hurt your starting pitchers like Logan Gilbert, Brian Wu, who are going to give you quality starts. Luis Castillo are going to give you quality starts each and every time they go out there. and they're going to end up with a loss on their record because the team wasn't able to put up any runs or put up barely any runs for them. And, one of your bullpen pitchers is going to come out, pitch for you. You're going to take the lead. Well, he was out there and he's going to get the win instead, which is totally fine. It's just, I would hate to see another season of Logan Gilbert having sub 10 wins and, plus 10 losses or something on his record because the team just couldn't put anything together while he was out there pitching for him.
Yeah, for sure. And it also comes down to just the defense behind some of these starting pitchers also needs to be better. It seems like for every amazing defensive play that we've seen J.P. Crawford or Dylan Moore make, we've seen one equally as unimpressive defensive play. And so I think as the defense starts to improve, we've seen a lot of unearned runs given up, which when you're not scoring a lot, you can't be giving the other team unearned runs. You got to play stellar defense, but I think that's something. Dylan Moore's Gold Glove winner, J.P. Crawford's a Gold Glove winner. I don't think that's something we need to be concerned about just yet, but it has been frustrating here to start the season, seeing those guys make a few defensive mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the defense definitely hurts you too, as well with those defensive mistakes. Hopefully something you can kind of clean up as time goes on. I'm loving what we're seeing from Demo. I think he's playing acceptable at third base, but he's had a couple of good plays he's made where he's bobbled the ball at first or dropped it and had to pick it up. And you'd love to see him kind of clean that up and just make a clean, easy play without any issues getting in his way or anything. But yeah, between the defense being like that, and also between just not getting on the board until late in the game, like it's definitely hurting your team a lot. And it's not always going to come through late in the game, especially when you're playing against good teams. So more runs early on is the key to winning games for Mariners roster that's built like this.
Yeah, for sure. And despite all of that, you're still 5-8. Obviously not great, but Houston's 5-7. The Angels right now are 7-4, but that will regress to the mean
that
eventually.
Will not last.
They've just kind of had an easy start to their season schedule-wise. Texas is 9-4. You get a big homestand, a big weekend home series against them coming up. Hopefully, the Mariners can take 2 of 3 against the Rangers at home. This is a Rangers team who, despite being 9-4, has really struggled to score the ball at points this season. A lot of their big guys are struggling. Marcus Semien's hitting 122. Adolis Garcia's hitting 190. Corey Seager's hitting 220. Jock Peterson's hitting 094. So you're kind of playing the Rangers at a time where they're also struggling. Their pitching, however, has been lights out to start the year. So it should be a good matchup here coming up this weekend. If you're in Seattle, tickets are pretty cheap right now. Go out. Every night there's going to be an elite starting pitcher matchup. On Friday, you're going to see DeGrom versus Bryce Miller. On Saturday, it's going to be Rocker versus Brian Wu. And then Sunday is Logan Gilbert versus Nate Eovaldi. So any of those days, go enjoy a good pitcher's duel. Hopefully the Mariners can take 2 of 3 and continue to kind of build on the momentum that we got from the walk-off today.
Yeah, it's going to be a pitching duel for the ages, to quote Aaron Goldsmith. Quick shout out to Aaron Goldsmith. He has been awesome this season with his play-by-plays. I've always loved him. I'm very sad that Dave Sims has left. I preferred Aaron Goldsmith over him, which I know is wild to say, but I love Aaron Goldsmith. I think one thing that I don't love about baseball announcers is the kind of small talk that happens between at-bats when something's not really happening in the game pisses me off. I can't listen to Rick Riz on the radio because he goes off on tangents about stuff that's not related to baseball or just the game happening right now. And it makes my mind wander as well when I forget about the game. But Aaron Goldsmith, I think, does a really good job with kind of staying on topic of the game while also putting a lot of emotion and excitement into a game when something crazy happens. So I love to see kind of how he's partnered up with who's the color analyst that's in the booth with him.
It's kind of
I forget
changed
his
at
name.
points.
It has. Both guys have been great, but yeah, the broadcasting has been awesome this season, and Aaron Goldsmith especially has been great. So I'd love to see his stuff. And I appreciate the excitement and emotion he puts into calling Mariners games.
Yeah, his calls are fantastic. But yeah, hopefully they can get the series win. I think we're gonna switch gears here, talking about the Sounders. Another pretty disappointing result. However, this one was a little bit more expected. San Diego's been pretty good here to start their inaugural campaign in the MLS. It was really just an unfortunate start for the Sounders, who went down 1-0 within the first 2 minutes. That really just set the tone of the match. Again, the players looking like they just don't really care, getting beat to every 50-50 ball. That resulted in the Sounders ultimately being down 3-0 at halftime and really just couldn't do much from there. They ended up losing 3-0. Really the only bright spot in my mind in this match was that we got to see the return of Pedro de la Vega and Reed Baker Whiting for the first time this season to action. Pedro de la Vega returning from his injury saw 30 minutes of action, which was a lot more than a lot of people expected coming off of his injury. Reed Baker Whiting got about 10 minutes plus stoppage time in his season debut. Both will be pieces that the Sounders need to get going to right the ship. A lot of questions surrounding the Sounders right now. I guess first, did you have any thoughts on the game? Were you able to tune in at all or see anything as you were following the Sounders this week?
I watched the play-by-play and score on my phone, and I stopped paying attention after they went down 2-0 before the half. Yeah, I'm not unfortunately in a position yet to make too many comments about the team and performance. But I just turned it off and was like, there's no reason for me to be watching this, and they're going to play like this. I wasn't under the impression that San Diego was a good team. I thought they weren't supposed to be great. So this is actually news to me to hear that they're having a good season in there. Did you say their inaugural season this year?
Yeah, it's their first season this year.
Jeez, wow. Good for them.
But yeah, so there's been a lot of questions going on surrounding the Sounders, and kind of what the biggest issue is. I think a lot of people, the easiest thing to blame is the GM. It's the easiest cop-out. And while there's no doubt in my mind that this team could be better, I think they could also be a lot worse. We do have enough quality in our players and guys like Pedro de la Vega, Vargas, Rusnak, Ferreira, the Roldan brothers, Morris, Nuhu, etc. Like, these are players that are good. These are players that have been called up for their national teams currently in Vargas and Nuhu, or guys that have been playing for their national teams in the past. And so for me, I don't think the players are necessarily I don't think the GM composing the team is necessarily the issue. The next easiest target is Schmetzer. His tactics, I think, are questionable at points, but they have still resulted in winning consistently at the highest level of the MLS, and he's still the only MLS coach to win a CONCACAF Champions Cup. We as Sounders fans have expectations, as we should, and those are pretty lofty expectations, but Brian Schmetzer made the Western Conference Final with pretty much the exact same roster that we have right now. If anything, the talent on this year's roster is better than last year's, and so I don't think that his tactics are necessarily the issue. And so for me, right now, for the Sounders, it's coming down to the actual players themselves. They look lethargic, bored, and uninterested at times. They don't really look like they want to be playing these games, with the exception of a few guys. This isn't saying that they don't care, because they definitely do all care. It's their job. They take pride in the fact. But it looks like they're just players that are going through the motions right now. The energy isn't there. At points, it seems as like they don't even have pride in the product they're putting on the field. For me, the team has to come together and decide to compete. And that comes down to little things. That comes down to communicating, to hustle, being active and attentive on defense. Putting forth that last bit of effort can go a long ways and really help you win games. Because right now we're playing teams that are doing all of those things, that are playing like every game, their season depends on it, and they're doing all the little things despite that costing a tiny bit of extra energy. So for me, I need to see the Sounders players put forth that last bit of energy, because some of these goals that we're giving up are just unmarked runs in the box. Like, that's something that you just need to talk with the defenders around you, be like, you got him, I got him, and everybody's covered. We saw an own goal earlier in the season at RSL, which was just no communication between Nuhu and Stefan Fry. It resulted in an awful own goal. Like, these are issues that could be solved pretty easily if there's just a little bit more communication, more attentiveness, and attention to detail. And I think the Sounders could really see their season start to turn around.
I feel like this team, from the little that I've been able to watch, the team feels like it should be a lot better than it is right now, which might be an obvious stating, but I watch and I've seen older games and I've seen these players playing on different teams or playing on the Sounders years before, and I'm like, wow, this is a talented team. Like, I feel like they should be better than they are. And yeah, hearing you kind of talk about your struggles, frustrations of the team and their struggles, you know, it makes it make a lot more sense of why this team isn't as good as they should be. I feel like communication is one thing that we've been seeing recently from them. Again, the little that I've been able to watch, I feel like lack of communication on the field has been something that's been killing the Sounders recently, or really just this season, with how the team has played so far in the few games that they've played.
For sure. And I think definitely Schmetzer could be putting some guys in better positions to succeed. But ultimately, I don't think that's the issue right now. It's just other team wants it more, and it's hard to beat a team that's just outplaying you in most aspects of the game. So you just kind of have to go out there. This is kind of it's an interesting reference, but I'm a big BYU fan. You guys know that. There's a point in the BYU basketball season this year where they were just getting punked. Like, they were just going out there, they were getting out hustled, they were just getting boxed out. And there's a point that the coach talked about. He was like, I just straight up told the players, I was like, this comes down to pride. Like, you guys shouldn't, those guys in the opposing locker room, they think they can just come out here and own you guys. They can just out hustle you, out physical you. And that's really similar to what I feel like what's happening with the Sounders right now. It's just the other team is just like, we can just do what we want against these guys. And so it just takes a little bit of pride in your product, a little bit of pride in the game, to just go out there and not let the other team bully you pretty much. And I think if the Sounders can do that, they're going to put themselves in a really good position to turn this thing around and get back into the playoff picture and eventually towards the top of the Western Conference.
Yeah. I have no comment. I'm sorry.
All good. I think that's all for the Sounders today. It's really just, with only a game a week right now, there's not much to cover besides just that game. So I think we're going to go into listener questions. Do you want to start us off?
For sure, yeah. Do we want to start off with a Mariners one, with a Kraken one? What are we thinking?
Let's go to the Kraken. We haven't really said much about them today.
All right, let's do it. I was asked a question this week. What is your favorite and least favorite Kraken player in history that are not on the team anymore? I would say that my least favorite, I have to pick between two players. My least favorite players that are not on the Kraken anymore, Brian Dumoulin is probably my least favorite. Veteran defenseman who came in on hopes that he would play at least decent for us, and he was not great, unfortunately. This one's going to surprise a lot of people, especially people who've been Kraken fans since the beginning, but Justin Schultz. I did not like Justin Schultz at all. Obviously, I loved that he put up a lot of goals for us as a defenseman and a good amount of assists. And I'll always love that first playoff goal, or the first playoff goal at home that he helped assist on as well. But the dude let too many breakaways on other teams. He wasn't covering well. He drew a lot of penalties. So I did not like Justin Schultz very much. I did not like Brian Dumoulin for really the same reasons for both of them. My favorite players that like I wish we had kept for the benefit of the team would be Martin Jones and Ryan Donato. I think Jones would have been a better backup than Grew. Even with how old he is, I think he would have been more solid than Grubauer is. So I was kind of hoping we'd keep him. And then even as a depth piece, like playing in Coachella, like we had Chris Rieger doing. And Ryan Donato, obviously, he's doing fantastic on the Blackhawks. He has been for the last 2 seasons. I think it was a massive mistake to let him go. And I don't know why the Kraken let a very talented, potentially team leading, like assist player, and somebody who's got like 30 goals on the Blackhawks this year. Obviously, playing kind of top line minutes, he'd probably play third or fourth line minutes for us, but super talented player that I think we should have kept. If I had to pick favorite players for like my favorite personally, Kyler Yamamoto and Morgan Geekie. I don't think they would be too much help to the team today. Maybe Morgan Geekie, but definitely like personally favorite players. But yeah, how about you?
Oh, I was just gonna go ahead and take the next question if that's okay.
Go for it. Do it.
Next question that we had: who is my pick for the Seahawks in the first round this upcoming draft? We're gonna do a special on this coming up soon. The draft isn't until the end of the month, but as we get closer, we're gonna throw together a draft special where we kind of do a mock draft. But for now, a little preview of that. I love Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State. He lined up at every single offensive line position in the NFL Combine and at the Senior Bowl. He's listed at 6'6", 312 pounds, which profiles more of a guard to me at the NFL level. He had an NFL Combine production score of 91, an athleticism score of 90, and a total score of 87, which ranked first out of all offensive linemen in the Combine. NFL.com right now projects his ceiling to be as a plus starter, which is basically someone that's on the fringe of being a Pro Bowler. Besides the raw athleticism, I love the experience. He was a 3-year starter for North Dakota State, and that's the program that has a great tradition of winning, despite it being at a lower level of college football. But they've churned out some great players in the NFL. So this would be a guy that I'd love the Seahawks to get. Might be the best offensive lineman in the class, kind of depends who you ask. And I think if he's sitting there at the Seahawks pick, they'd be dumb not to take him.
Yeah, he was somebody that I have on my list of people that I wanted to talk about on that special episode that we're going to be doing. His prospect grade is a lot lower than a lot of the other people I was looking at, but also I think that just gives more potential for you to be able to pick him up. And I think that doesn't matter as much if you think you see potential in a player like that. But he's played 4 of the 5 offensive line positions, which I think is interesting, which means he's got some flexibility potentially about where he could play. And he is an inside offensive lineman. He seems to be predicted to move to guard once he makes it to the NFL. And a guard obviously is something that the Seahawks need. I read an article from Daniel Jeremiah explaining why he believes that he'll be moving to guard, which is very interesting. But he's also a senior, so he has some more time and experience playing at the level he's been playing at as well. So yeah, he would probably also be my pick. If not him, possibly Will Campbell, who's an offensive tackle. Although he's not supposed to be good for like starting time for the next 2 to 3 seasons. He looks very athletic for an offensive lineman, less bulk, more nimble shiftiness. But he's somebody who I feel like because of his ability to not be fully ready to play at the NFL level for another like 2 seasons minimum, I feel like he's somebody you probably take in the 2nd or 3rd round over a 1st round pick.
I agree. Going here with another Seahawks question. What else do the Seahawks need besides offensive line? Right now, I think there's a lot of depth in the wide receiver room, but not necessarily a ton of like high-level talent. I would love the Seahawks to draft someone that could come in and compete with Jake Bobo and Steven Sims for like that 4th wide receiver role behind Cooper Kupp, JSN, and MVS. I think, especially considering Cooper Kupp's injury history, some more wide receiver depth and good wide receiver depth would be a huge plus for the Seahawks coming into this upcoming season.
Yeah, I almost made a joke actually when you said, what do they need? And I was almost like wide receiver, but I mean you're right. We have a lot of wide receivers currently like on roster, but not very much talent and good solid depth. So, and yeah, like you said, especially with Cooper Kupp's injury history, it might be smart to have somebody. I do a lot of memeing, obviously, with players like Canzone, Cartier, and Bobo. But I'm not gonna lie, I genuinely believe that Bobo can be a solid third wide receiver option for you if you need to be. Like, I would love to see him get some more targets. I would love to see him get some more practice in. I like, all memes aside, I genuinely do think Bobo is a solid depth option, and I think he could fill space for somebody if there was to be an injury that happened. But I agree. I would not be mad with us taking a mid to late draft wide receiver pick as somebody who we think could be like a good depth piece for us, or even picking up another free agent that could help us. But wide receiver, offensive line obviously is the biggest issue. But besides O-line, could you, potentially cornerback, maybe. I know that the Seahawks had a visit with Shaquille Griffin this last week to see if we maybe potentially want to bring him back as some depth, but cornerback, running back,
I'd
maybe?
love to get some more depth for the cornerback room, especially.
Mm-hmm.
Running back,
I'm thinking maybe
you're
running
gonna
back.
be
If Kenneth
okay.
Walker gets hurt, again, like I have full faith in Charbonnet. I would love to see. Is it Kenny McIntosh is our backup, our third string right now?
Yeah, Kenny
I
McIntosh.
yeah, I think he's not he's not like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like, he's not gonna push for a long season with more like, man, I cannot think what I'm trying to say here. He's not a running back that I give a lot of handoffs to in a game. But he's somebody who I think can definitely get you some needed yards for a second or third down situation. Where you need to give Charbonnet a break if there's an injury potentially, but maybe having a little more depth there in the running back position.
Yeah, I agree. Kind of switching to another question. Is it over for the Mariners? It is not over for the Mariners. Really, right now you just kind of have to stay within striking distance. Don't fall too much behind. Most likely Robles and Bliss will be back at some point during this year. Kirby, Taylor, Brash will all be back. You just have to compete right now, which is what we're seeing them doing. They're not just taking L's every single night. They're out there competing. Once the top of the lineup gets going, once we start hitting with runners in the scoring position, this team's going to be okay. It is far from over. Just 13 games in. Haven't even had a real road trip yet. I think they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, it's early on in the season. I wouldn't freak out or panic about it too much. Yeah, I'm not going to say too much more. Obviously, I'm somebody who doesn't fully believe in this team, and I am more than happy to be proven wrong and to eat my words later on the season, but I'm somebody who has less optimism for the team, and I don't want to bring down the mood. So it's early on in the season. They're always going to have a chance.
Yeah, I agree. I think we just got one more Mariners questions left here. This is kind of an interesting one. It was brought up today by an MLB Network analyst, made into a reel by MLB Network, and then kind of posted, and it circulated quickly, talking about the Mariners and the potential of signing JD Martinez. For me right now, Jorge Polanco is only playing DH until he's fully healthy. So there's not really a position right now for JD Martinez to play. However, I will never say no to someone that the Mariners want to sign, even if it's a 39-year-old JD Martinez. It's an opportunity. You never know what you're going to get. Really, the only thing that you're risking is the money that you're giving him. Because if he's bad, you just cut him, and he goes back exactly to where he is right now, and you're back to exactly where you were. He's been a really good MLB player. Just 2 years ago, he hit 30 home runs and was an all-star. It'd be an interesting experiment with relatively no downside. And so once Polo is back and healthy, you can move him to second or third, and then you can give JD Martinez some reps at DH. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, I don't have much to say on the topic. I feel like I agree with what you've said. Yeah, I kind of agree with everything you said. Don't have much to add on the topic.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think that's it. Obviously, we had a few other questions we didn't answer. We will get to those in the next episode, guys. You always send us so many questions, so we really appreciate that. Any final closing thoughts from you?
No, just hopefully the Mariners can take 2 of 3 against Texas and that they can go and get on the road trip on a good note. So we'll see what they
Absolutely.
do next week when we record, but until then, I'm feeling confident.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, huge Mariners series coming up against the Rangers. It's going to be an awesome pitching battle to get to witness, so make sure you guys tune into that. Otherwise, look for an episode from us next week, and continue to look for that Seahawks special for the draft from our thoughts for who the Seahawks could potentially be targeting in the draft. Still working on our research for that. So, as always, thank you guys so much for listening. If you want to reach us, you can find us on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, and yeah, we'll see you guys in the next episode.
See ya.